Almost every variation of plastic is produced from some organic material like natural gas, coal, or crude oil, which is by far the most frequent substance used. Before crude oil can be used to create plastics, it must first be refined due to all the chemicals that are mixed in with it. This process reduces crude oil into multiple categories called fractions, which consist of all the lighter parts found in crude oil. Naphtha is an example of a crude oil fraction that is essential for the manufacturing of plastics. At this point in the procedure to refine oil, manufacturers will employ two methods to create many different types of plastic. Each variety of plastic can then be categorized as either a thermoplastic or a thermoset. Polyethylene is one kind of thermoplastic, and it is utilized in everything from bottles to appliances. Within this complicated operation, the oil refineries themselves put human health and the surrounding area at serious risk. Oil refineries have been known for quite some time now that they are responsible for generating significant air pollution around the space that they occupy. Defective equipment, which is usually a result of large weather-related disasters or accidents like a fire, combined with general exhaust the plants produce, is what leads them to give off around 100 different chemicals in just a single day. Metals, dust particles, and gases like sulfur dioxide and benzene are all part of the waste oil refineries discharge into the atmosphere. A large portion of the gases oil refineries put into the air pose some of the most severe consequences for human health. A lot of them actually cause cancer, which makes them carcinogens. Respiratory problems are probably the most prominent adverse health issue associated with these gases. Some examples would include asthma, coughing, chest pain, and bronchitis. Some other disorders involving the presence of these gases would be skin irritations, nausea, eye problems, headaches, birth defects, leukemia, and various cancers. These illnesses become much worse for the youth and elderly populations. The pollution of water is another outcome of oil refining. It is a common practice among oil refiners to release their wastewater, which contains many harmful chemicals, into other bodies of water. Wastewater from refineries is usually pumped deep underground into permeable rock layers through the use of deep injection wells, and not infrequently does some of this toxic water wind up in groundwater or aquifers. Refineries also spill their wastewater into waters located on the surface, and even though this water is required by law to be free of certain substances, there is still a high probability that polluted water will find its way into water intended for drinking. Manganese is just one of the many byproducts that oil refineries produce that end up in drinking water, and even short-term exposure from it can lead to impaired function and the buildup of fluid in the lungs. Repercussions of long-term exposure can look like Parkinson's disease and serious respiratory issues. It is important to keep in mind that air and water pollution are just two of the many methods oil refineries can negatively influence human health. Plastics that are used in everything from packages for food to electronics require the application of various resins. The resins used in plastics are created from natural gas or crude oil, and they both go through a long and intricate process until they eventually become polymers, which are many atoms attached to each other in a way that creates a pattern. Factories then proceed to combine different polymers to construct a resin. Each resin consists of its own unique qualities. Resins are able to create a plastic product almost in its entirety. However, in order to achieve the exact characteristics that may be desired in the product, manufacturers will proceed to include additives in a batch for that item. Plastic additives have the capability to help create a product with features like a decreased amount of friction or a transparent appearance. Although resins and additives are a critical aspect of the manufacturing process to produce plastic goods, some have actually been known to pose serious threats to the well-being of humans. Many manufacturers incorporate a chemical called BPA or bisphenol A into resins and additives that are utilized to create products like water bottles or even medical devices. A large portion of BPA products is used by humans for the consumption of food or beverages. Studies have determined that BPA often leaks from packages containing it, usually when heat is being applied into what humans ingest, like water from a plastic bottle or food from a can. While very low amounts of BPA are regarded as being relatively harmless, coming into contact with higher levels of BPA is linked to many serious illnesses that can last a lifetime. Researchers have labeled BPA as an endocrine disruptor, which means that once it enters the body, it creates hormonal irregularities. The reproductive system for both men and women could experience severe injuries when hormones like estrogen are not able to perform all their natural functions. Pregnancy and fertility are just a few areas where considerable alterations can be seen. Additionally, endocrine disruptors have been identified to further the possibilities of cancers developing in areas like the reproductive organs. Prostate and breast cancer are two possibilities. Young children and fetuses are in the most danger when it comes to BPA exposure. Disorders for this group mainly concern the improper development of the brain, which may look like anxiety, social issues, as well as irregular sexual growth. Taking in BPA at a young age could additionally result in various cancers that deal with hormones, which would mature later in life. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, asthma, autism, obesity, and irregular liver and immune function are some of the conditions that have been verified to be provoked by BPA exposure. Even though it seems like plastic is involved in every aspect of daily life, There are some simple things that can be done to avoid ingesting BPA, which is important after considering all the potential consequences. One of the most essential things that everyone should do is to just avoid prepackaged food products. Consuming fresh foods is a much safer alternative to foods contained in plastic. Instead of purchasing liquids in a can or plastic bottle, glass is an additional option that does not create any serious problems for human health. Another important thing to remember is that BPA is released from plastics when heat gets imposed on it. So, in order to avoid this, plastic containers should never be microwaved. Overall, it is valuable to keep in mind that BPA is by far not the only toxic chemical found in plastics. Looking for BPA free products or limiting the ones that aren't is extremely beneficial for human health. Groundbreaking studies that came out in the past few years have been demonstrating to the world all the negative repercussions of plastic once humans are done using it. Microplastics are remarkably small pieces of plastic that can be anywhere from 5 millimeters to 100 nanometers in length. The term microplastic is generally used to refer to fibers, nurdles, and fragments. Microbeads are another variation of microplastic. They're commonly utilized in personal care products like facial cleansers. There are many more ways plastics function in our society lead to the development of microplastics. Today, however, the focus is on their presence in various bodies of water and what the implications of that might be. Microbeads, nurdles, and fibers are all categorized as primary microplastics, which means that they've been produced by humans to be of that size. Because the primary microplastics volume is so little, the majority of water treatment facilities are not able to stop them from entering open waters. Secondary microplastics are the other type of microplastic, and the category predominantly consists of fragments. The formation of plastic fragments starts when a plastic reaches a body of water, like the world's oceans, which is usually a result of humans discarding plastic they've used. When plastic sits in water for an extended period of time, it goes through a considerable amount of deterioration from UV radiation given off by the sun, forces caused by winds and waves, and a more gradual process called hydrolysis. Degradation is what these processes are designated as, and it is a method in which, over a period of time, can significantly weaken visible portions of plastic. As plastic undergoes this process over and over again, it will keep separating and will ultimately turn into microscopic remnants. Plastic in this state is what so many marine species, like seabirds and fish, ingest. These species, as well as many more, are unable to distinguish the scent of plastic and their food, which guides them to consume huge amounts of microplastics from the water. This is why it is not uncommon today that bits of plastics end up inside marine organisms that are regularly eaten by humans. Although seafood is one of the leading ways microplastics enter the human body, it is not the only. Researchers have determined that humans also ingest thousands of them through products like plastic bottles and tea bags. They can also infiltrate the body through the air that we breathe. No matter where microplastics come from or how they enter the body, they all create major hazards for human health. Rather recent investigations about the health concerns of microplastics moving around the body have come to the conclusion that microplastics actually form clusters in the blood, which can prevent it from flowing properly as well as impair the duties of blood proteins. The formation of these clumps begins when microplastics attach to one of the blood proteins, like globulins, which are critical for many bodily functions such as clotting. After a blood protein is totally engulfed by microplastics, the proteins will start to combine with other proteins. This is what results in the blockage of various fluids in addition to the destruction of blood protein capabilities. Scientists have also discovered that these same mixtures of blood proteins and microplastics are quite lethal towards red and white blood cells, even more so than microplastics by themselves. Some other disorders triggered by microplastics in the human body would include tissue damage caused by white blood cells reactions when they recognize inflammation, and general deterioration of the body when the immune system replies to unknown substances, which are the microplastics. Finally, microplastics, just like regular plastic products, are known to pass on those deadly chemicals like BPA to humans, and illnesses connected with this are the same as the ones previously stated.